15 mechanics stood in a line across the service bay, arms crossed, faces hard as the January frost outside. Behind them, the hydraulic lifts were raised, every single one like silent sentries. The early morning light cut through the grimy windows, and there, at the counter where I'd tallied invoices for 37 years, I stood waiting. My hands weren't shaking anymore. They had been 3 months ago, when I couldn't get the door to open. But not now. Sarah walked in at 7:45, exactly on time, like she always was, her leather portfolio under one arm and 2 men in wool coats flanking her. She stopped cold when she saw us. The color drained from her face, and for just a second, I saw the girl who used to climb onto my lap while I did paperwork, asking if she could stamp the invoices. That was a long time ago. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. My name's Jim Thornton, and I've been fixing cars in Timmins, Ontario, since I was 23 years old. Bought this place from old Frank Morrison in 1998, back when it was just 2 bays and a prayer. Built it up to 6 bays. Full diagnostic equipment, the works. We service everything from snow plows to logging trucks. In a town where winter lasts 7 months and your vehicle is your lifeline, people need someone they can trust. I'd like to think I earned that trust. 1 oil change, 1 transmission rebuild, 1 midnight tow in a blizzard at a time. I lost my wife Margaret to cancer 6 years back. We never had kids of our own. Couldn't, as it turned out. But my brother David and his wife Karen had Sarah, and when they died in that highway accident near Sudbury when Sarah was 11, there was never a question. Margaret and I took her in, raised her like our own, paid for her university in Toronto, helped with her MBA. She was brilliant, always had been, top of her class, scholarship offers, the whole deal. After Margaret died, Sarah started coming home more often, said she was worried about me, said I was working too hard, that I needed to slow down. I appreciated it, I really did. She'd sit in my little office above the shop, going through my books, making suggestions. Uncle Jim, you need to modernize. Get online booking. Update your website. You're leaving money on the table. She wasn't wrong. I knew the business could be more efficient. So when she said she wanted to help, when she offered to bring in some consultants she knew from Toronto to streamline operations, I said sure. Why not? That was my first mistake. The consultants turned out to be from a company called Northern Equity Partners. 2 guys, smooth as oil, with PowerPoint presentations about unlocking value and operational optimization. They talked about bringing the shop into the 21st century, expanding services, maybe opening a second location. It all sounded good. Sarah was nodding along, taking notes, looking at me with those earnest eyes. They had contracts, a lot of them. Sarah explained them in that patient way she had, like she was teaching me something I should already know. Partnership agreements, she called them. I'd maintain operational control, but NEP would provide capital for expansion and modernization. There were sections about profit sharing, decision-making processes, succession planning. It's for your future, Uncle Jim, Sarah said, her hand on my shoulder. You can't keep doing this alone forever. And this way, when you're ready to retire, there's a plan, a real plan. I signed, all of it. I trusted her. She was family. That was in October. By November, things started changing. NEP wanted weekly reports. They wanted to review every purchase order over $500. They sent someone to observe operations for a week. A kid couldn't have been 30 in dress shoes that would have been ruined in 5 minutes if he'd actually stepped onto the shop floor. He just stood there with a tablet, making notes, asking my mechanics questions about productivity metrics. My guys didn't like it. Dave Kowalski, who'd been with me for 22 years, pulled me aside one afternoon. Boss, what's going on? That kid asked me how many minutes I spend on each job. I told him it takes as long as it takes to do it right, and he wrote something down like I'd said something wrong. I told him not to worry about it. It was just part of the modernization process. Things would settle down. They didn't. In December, right before Christmas, Sarah called me. Said she needed to meet about something important. We met at the Tim Hortons on Algonquin, the one where we used to get hot chocolate after her skating lessons. She had more papers. "NEP has identified a strategic opportunity," she said. She was using that corporate voice, the one I'd started hearing more and more. "There's interest from a national chain. Big investment. Could really secure your retirement." I asked what national chain. She named one of those corporate quick lube places, the kind where they try to upsell you wiper blades you don't need. "They want to buy the business?" I asked. "Not exactly. They want to license the location. You'd still own the property, but they'd operate under their brand. You'd get a percentage of revenue. And, Sarah, this shop has my name on it. Thornton's Auto Service. It's been that way for 26 years. She got that look, the one I'd seen when she was a teenager, and thought I was being unreasonable. "Uncle Jim, you have to think practically. You're 62. How much longer can you really keep doing this? Your back gives you trouble. I see you limping after a long day. This is a way to ensure you're taken care of." We argued. I said no. She said I was being stubborn. I said it was my business. She said I'd signed agreements that gave NEP decision-making authority on major strategic moves. I said I'd never agreed to that. She pulled out the contracts, showed me the clauses. There they were, in the sections I'd skimmed, the parts where the legal language got dense. I told her I needed to think about it. She said time was sensitive. The chain needed an answer by January. I went home that night feeling like I'd swallowed broken glass. 3 days before Christmas, I got an email. My access to the shop's bank accounts had been restricted. "For my protection," the email said, "to prevent unauthorized expenditures during the transition period." Transition period. What transition period? I called Sarah. She didn't pick up. I called 5 times. Finally, she texted, "Uncle Jim, this is just protocol. NEP needs to ensure proper financial controls are in place. It's temporary." It wasn't temporary. January 4th. That's when everything fell apart. I drove to the shop that morning like I had for 37 years. The parking lot had been plowed, which was good. Fresh snow overnight, and the plow service I'd used forever knew to come early. I had my key ring, the same one with the little magnetic wrench keychain Sarah had given me for Father's Day years ago. The key didn't work. I tried it again. Nothing. The lock had been changed. I stood there in the -20 wind, my breath fogging, trying my key over and over like an idiot. Like if I just tried enough times, reality would correct itself. My phone rang. Sarah. "Uncle Jim, I was going to call you this morning. Can we talk?" "My key doesn't work." Silence. Then, "I know. I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you in person, but things moved faster than expected." "Sarah, what's going on?" "NEP has exercised their operational control clause. Given the resistance to necessary changes, they've decided to implement the transition immediately. For your own good, Uncle Jim. You're not thinking clearly about what's best long-term. I can't get into my shop. It's not your shop anymore, technically. It's a partnership, and the partners have decided." I hung up. I called Dave Kowalski. He'd been trying to get in too. His key didn't work either. Neither did anyone else's. I called all 15 of my guys. Every single one locked out. At 8:30, a courier showed up. Documents. A letter from NEP's legal team informing me that, due to breach of fiduciary duty and resistance to agreed-upon operational improvements, I was being placed on mandatory administrative leave. Paid, the letter emphasized. I'd still get a salary, but I was not to enter the premises or attempt to contact employees about business matters. The employees I wasn't supposed to contact started showing up at my house. Dave first, then Marcus Chen, then Jenny Fortier, then all the others. We sat in my living room. Too many people, not enough chairs, everyone talking at once. They came in this morning, changed all the locks, handed us new contracts, Dave said. Said if we don't sign, we're terminated. The contracts have non-disclosure clauses. We can't talk about business operations, finances, anything. That's insane, I said. Jim, there's more. That was Marcus. He'd been with me 14 years. They're bringing in their own manager, some guy from Toronto. He told us the shop's being sold to that chain. We'll all keep our jobs, but under new terms. Lower base pay, more commission-based. Jenny, who did all our bookkeeping, had her laptop. Jim, I pulled the records before they locked me out. NEP isn't trying to help you. They're trying to force you out so they can sell the property. The land's worth way more than the business. There's a development group that wants to build condos. That's what this is about. I felt it then, that cold, sick feeling. The realization that I'd been played, that my own niece had. No, I couldn't think like that. There had to be some explanation. I tried calling Sarah again. Voicemail. I tried texting. No response. I drove to her apartment in the newer part of town. She wasn't there. I went to a lawyer. Terry Patterson, guy I'd known since high school. He looked over my contracts. Jim, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. You signed away more than you realized. There are clauses here that essentially give NEP controlling interest in major decisions. The good news is, there are also clauses that might be challengeable. This succession planning section, for instance, it's vague enough that a court might find it unenforceable. But that'll take time. And money. How much time? Months. Maybe a year. I don't have a year, Terry. That's my shop. Those are my guys. They're going to sell it out from under all of us. Then we need to find leverage. Something to force NEP to the table. But what leverage did I have? They had the keys, the accounts, the legal agreements. I had anger and betrayal in a shop I couldn't enter. The next week was hell. I'd drive by every morning, watch strangers going in and out of my shop. The new manager, some slick guy who probably couldn't tell a torque wrench from a tire iron, standing at my counter. My guys working, because what choice did they have? They had families, mortgages, bills. Sarah finally called on January 12th. Uncle Jim, please. Can we meet? We met at the Tim Hortons again. I don't know why I agreed. Maybe I wanted to hear her explanation. Maybe I wanted to look her in the eye and understand how the girl I raised could do this. She looked tired. Good, I thought. Then hated myself for thinking it. I never wanted it to happen this way, she started. Then how did you want it to happen, Sarah? I wanted you to retire with dignity, with security. Uncle Jim, you're 62. How much longer do you think you can handle the physical demands? I've seen you. Your hands shake sometimes. You're taking painkillers for your back. You won't admit it, but you're slowing down. So you decided to force me out? I decided to ensure you'd be taken care of. The deal with NEP, the eventual sale, it all guarantees you a comfortable retirement. More money than you'd make struggling along for another 5 years. Why can't you see I'm trying to help? Help? You locked me out of my own business. It's not your business anymore, Uncle Jim. It's a partnership. And partnerships make decisions based on what's best for all stakeholders. Stakeholders. Is that what we are now? She looked down at her coffee. I know you're angry. I understand. But in a few months, when you're settled, when you're not dealing with 4AM calls about broken down trucks, when you can actually rest, you'll thank me. Get out. Uncle Jim, I said get out. I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear from you. You're not who I thought you were. She left. I sat there for another hour, coffee going cold, watching the snow fall outside. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Terry had said I needed leverage. Fine. I'd find it. I started digging. Called everyone I knew in town. Found out that Northern Equity Partners was a subsidiary of a larger development corporation. Found out they'd been quietly buying properties in Timmins for 18 months. Found out that the condo development wasn't just my lot. It was a whole block. They needed my property to make the deal work. And I found out something else. The development had to break ground by April to meet their financing terms. If they missed that deadline, the whole deal fell apart. I had 3 months. Jenny still had access to some of the old financial records. She'd made copies before they locked her out. She found something interesting. The partnership agreement required unanimous consent for any property sale. I'd signed it, sure. But there was another signature required. Margaret's. We'd owned the property jointly. When she died, her half passed to me, but the original agreement language hadn't been updated. Terry nearly jumped out of his chair when I showed him. This could void the entire sale. If the partnership agreement itself is invalid because a required party is deceased and wasn't properly replaced in the documentation, then NEP doesn't have the authority they think they do. Can we use it, Jim? We can use it to blow up their whole timeline. I'll file an injunction. Claim the partnership is invalid due to improper documentation. Even if we don't win ultimately, it'll delay everything past their April deadline. We filed on January 23rd. NEP's lawyers called Terry. Within 6 hours. They wanted to meet. But here's what I didn't expect. My guys, my mechanics, they weren't just sitting around waiting for me to fix things. Dave Kowalski organized them, all 15. They started a work slowdown. Nothing they could be fired for. They just stopped being efficient. A job that should take 2 hours took 4. They took every break they were entitled to. They followed every safety protocol to the letter, which meant everything took longer. Productivity dropped 40% in a week. The new manager tried threatening them. They smiled and kept working slowly. He tried bribing them with commission bonuses. They ignored him. The quick lube chain sent their own people to evaluate the operation. They saw the numbers, saw the efficiency issues, and started asking questions. Meanwhile, Jenny had been talking to the other local business owners. The coffee shop next door, the hardware store across the street, the pharmacy on the corner. Turned out NEP had approached all of them about selling too. None of them wanted to. She organized them. They went to the town council, demanded a review of the development permits. The council, in typical small-town fashion, decided they needed to study the matter further, which meant delays, more delays. Everything was coming together. But I still couldn't shake the feeling about Sarah, the girl I'd raised, my brother's daughter, family. Then, in mid-February, something shifted. Sarah showed up at my house at 10 at night. She looked like she'd been crying. "I need to tell you something," she said. I almost didn't let her in. But something in her voice made me open the door. She sat on my couch, the same one she used to do her homework on, and she just broke down. "They lied to me, Uncle Jim. NEP, they told me this was about helping you retire, about securing your future. But I found out what they're really doing. The condos aren't for families. They're investment properties, Airbnbs. They're going to gut this whole section of town, drive up rents, push out all the locals, and I helped them do it. I thought I was being smart. I thought I was using my education to help you. Instead, I've been their tool." Sarah. "No, please. Let me finish. I found their real plans. They've done this in 6 other small towns. They call it strategic redevelopment. What it really means is they come in, buy up properties from people who don't realize what they're signing, then flip everything for maximum profit and leave. I've been so stupid. I thought I was better than this town, smarter than everyone here. I thought you were just being stubborn and old-fashioned. But you were right. You've always been right." She was sobbing now. Part of me wanted to comfort her. Part of me was still too angry. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I have their files, all of them. Every document, every plan, every communication. And I think we can stop them, together. If you'll let me help, really help this time." I looked at her, saw my brother in her eyes, saw Margaret in the way she was twisting her hands, saw the kid who used to help me sort bolts in the shop. "Show me what you've got," I said. What Sarah had was a gold mine. Internal emails showing NEP knew about the unanimous consent issue, documents proving they'd deliberately obscured the language in the contracts. Communications with the quick lube chain showing they'd misrepresented the shop's profitability to inflate the sale price. Terry filed amended motions. We had them dead to rights on fraud. But I wanted more than just to win legally. I wanted them to know they'd picked the wrong town, the wrong people. That's when Dave Kowalski came to me with an idea. "Boss, what if we just took the shop back?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, your injunction is filed. The sale can't go through while it's pending. NEP's got no legitimate reason to keep you locked out. What if we all just showed up one morning and opened for business?" It was risky, could be considered trespassing, could make our legal position worse. But damn if it didn't sound good. We planned it for Tuesday, February 27th. 6 in the morning, all 15 mechanics. Sarah, armed with legal documents proving my ownership claim, Terry on standby with the injunction paperwork, and me, walking up to my own shop, bolt cutters in hand, because I was done asking permission. The new manager was already there. He saw us coming and started shouting about calling the police. "Go ahead," I said. "Call them. Explain to Chief Morrison why you're in possession of property that's under legal dispute. Explain why you changed the locks on the legitimate owner. I'll wait." The mechanics moved past him. Dave had a key to the old locks. Turns out the new manager hadn't changed the rear entrance. We went through the service bay. Everything was wrong. Tools in the wrong places. Equipment we'd maintained for years sitting dirty. Paperwork scattered across my desk. But we were home. The guys started setting things right. Marcus fired up the compressor. Jenny booted up the computer system. Dave started pulling the work orders. The new manager called someone, probably NEP. Within an hour, police did show up. Chief Morrison. We'd gone to school together. "Jim, what's going on here?" I handed him Terry's documents. He read them over. "So there's a legal dispute about ownership?" "That's right. And you're claiming you have a right to be here?" "I'm claiming this is my shop and has been for 26 years, and I'm not leaving." Morrison looked at the new manager. "You got paperwork saying otherwise?" The manager fumbled with his phone, made calls, couldn't produce anything definitive. "Tell you what," Morrison said. "Until this gets sorted out in court, everybody stays calm. Jim, you can work, but no interfering with existing contracts or operations. And you," he pointed at the new manager, "you don't make any changes to the property or try to keep these people out. We clear?" We were clear. For the next week, we operated in this weird limbo. The new manager sulking in the corner. Us doing the actual work. Customers started noticing things were different. Better. We were back to doing things right, instead of fast. Then Sarah dropped the bomb. She'd been in contact with the Quick Lube chain, sent them copies of NEP's internal communications, showed them they'd been lied to about the property value and business operations. The chain pulled out of the deal. Without the anchor tenant, the whole condo development started falling apart. NEP scrambled to find replacement buyers. Couldn't. Their April deadline came and went. Their financing fell through. The development was dead. On March 15th, Terry got a call from NEP's lawyers. They wanted to settle. We met in Terry's office. 3 lawyers from Toronto, expensive suits, briefcases that probably cost more than my truck. They slid papers across the table. "Our clients are willing to exit the partnership," their lead lawyer said. "You buy out their stake at the original investment amount. All claims are released." "What's the amount?" Terry asked. "A number. 6 figures. More than I had liquid." "No," I said. They looked surprised. "Mr. Thornton, this is a generous offer. You get your business back free and clear." I said no. "You came into my town, into my business, and tried to steal it. You manipulated my family. You threatened my employees. You want out? Fine. You take your original investment and you leave. But there's a condition." "What condition?" "You're banned from doing business in Timmins. Any of your subsidiaries, any of your partners. You even think about buying property here again, I'll make it my personal mission to expose every dirty trick you pulled. I've got documents. I've got emails. I've got victims in 6 other towns who'd love to know their patterns match ours. So, you take your money and you stay gone." The lawyers conferred, made calls, came back an hour later. "Agreed." We signed. They left. I owned my shop again. But the thing about battles is they leave scars. The relationship with Sarah, it wasn't something that could be fixed with a settlement. She'd tried to help in the end, sure. But the trust, that foundational thing we'd built over years, it was cracked. She came to see me after everything was finalized. "I'm moving back to Toronto," she said. "I can't stay here. Every time I see the shop, I see what I did, what I almost did." Sarah. "No, Uncle Jim, I need to say this. I thought I was smarter than you, than this town. I thought education and ambition were enough. But you were right, about integrity, about loyalty, about knowing what matters. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." She was crying. I was trying not to. "I forgive you," I said. and I meant it. But we both knew forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. She left a week later. We still talk sometimes. Awkward phone calls every few months. Maybe someday it'll be easier, maybe not. The shop's running better than ever. The guys stuck with me through everything, and I made sure they knew what that meant. Profit sharing. Real profit sharing. We're a cooperative now. They've got stake in the place they helped save. I've also done something else. Set up a proper succession plan. When I'm ready to step back, and that day's coming sooner than I'd like to admit, there's a process. The guys know what happens. It's in writing, clear as day. Terry suggested I put a picture up in the office. A reminder. It's there now, over my desk. All 15 mechanics, standing in front of the shop, the day we took it back. Behind them, those hydraulic lifts raised like they were the day Sarah walked in and saw what loyalty really looks like. Because here's what I learned. Family betrayal, it's the worst kind because it makes you doubt yourself. Makes you wonder if you're wrong to trust, wrong to believe in people. Sarah said something once in one of those painful phone calls. She said Margaret used to tell her that the worst betrayals are the ones from people you love because they teach you to doubt your own judgment. She's right, but she's also wrong. The worst betrayals teach you something more important. They teach you that love isn't the same as trust, and trust isn't the same as love. You can love someone and still need to protect yourself. You can forgive someone and still maintain boundaries. And they teach you who really has your back when everything falls apart. Those 15 mechanics, they didn't stand with me because I paid them well. They stood with me because we'd built something together. Something real. Something worth fighting for. That's what Nep didn't understand. That's what Sarah forgot. A business isn't just numbers on paper. It's people. It's relationships. It's showing up every day and doing right by the folks who depend on you. I'm 62 years old. My back does hurt. My hands do shake sometimes. But I'll tell you what, every morning when I pull into that parking lot, when I see those bays, when I hear the guys joking while they work, I know exactly why I fought to keep this place. It's not about the money. It never was. It's about knowing that when someone tries to take what's yours, what you built with your own hands over decades, you don't have to face it alone. You've got 15 mechanics who'll bolt cut their way in with you. You've got a lawyer who'll work weekends to find loopholes. You've got a whole town that'll slow down permits because they know what's right. That's what community means. That's what loyalty means. And no Toronto equity firm, no matter how slick their PowerPoints, can take that away. Sarah texts sometimes. Asked if she could come visit this summer. I said yes. Because like I said, forgiveness doesn't erase consequences, but it does leave the door open. Maybe she'll walk through it. Maybe we'll find a way back to something that looks like family. Or maybe we won't. Either way, I've got my shop. I've got my guys. I've got my town. And every Tuesday morning, when those 15 mechanics show up and we open those bays, I'm reminded that sometimes the people you trust most aren't always blood. Sometimes they're the ones who stand with you when your own blood is trying to lock you out.